14. Mahek Bukhari. In early 2022, a 22-year-old TikToker from Leicestershire, England named Mahek Bukhari made an arguably distasteful video about how her relationship with her mother was so close that they could confide in one another about killing people. Most people initially took it as a joke. After all, who in their right mind would post something like that and actually mean it? But the seemingly satirical clip took on a disturbing new tone just weeks later, when Mahek and her mother, 45-year-old Ansareen Bukhari, were charged with murder. According to prosecutors, Ansareen was entangled in a torrid on-and-off 3-year affair behind her husband's back, with a man less than half her age and even younger than her daughter. Authorities accuse the Bukharis of purposefully running 21-year-old Saqib Hussain off the road in a bid to hide the illicit relationship and to prevent the victim from leaking some steamy videos of himself and Ansareen. Riding in the car with Hussain at the time of the accident was his childhood friend, Mohammed Hashim Ijazuddin. In a harrowing 911 call, Hussain said that the two people in the vehicle chasing after him were wearing balaclavas. He screamed, "Oh my God," and the call disconnected as the vehicle crashed, ripped in half, and burst into flames, killing both men. At trial, prosecutor Collingwood Thompson KC described the investigation's findings as a story of love, obsession, extortion, and ultimately cold-blooded murder. He said that Ansareen wanted to end the affair for good, but Hussain couldn't accept that it was over. The scorned young man allegedly threatened to tell Ansareen's husband and sons about the relationship and to show them the videos as proof. A WhatsApp conversation recovered by investigators revealed that Ansareen turned to her daughter for help. In one message, Mahek wrote that she would have some guys jump Hussain. In addition to Ansareen's alleged desire to hide the affair, Thompson also alleged that the women carried out the murder to protect Mahek's reputation on TikTok, where she went by the handle Maybe Vlogs and had upwards of 128,000 followers. The prosecutor accused the mother-daughter duo of telling the police a pack of lies in an attempt to cover up their involvement in the crime. Thompson even said that Mahek thought her skills as a social media influencer would somehow enable her to sell a false story. As of May 2023, the Bukharis and 6 other defendants remain on trial, with each suspect facing 2 counts of murder. 13. Zachary Latham. 18-year-old Zachary Latham became TikTok famous for his love of cars. It was the same passion that caused his neighbor, Catherine Tiffany Durham, to approach him outside their Vinland, New Jersey homes one day in 2020 and scold him for driving too fast down their street. During the heated exchange, Durham demanded that the young man slow down behind the wheel. Latham captured the interaction on video and posted it online, referring to his neighbor as a Karen. The clip went viral, garnering over 3 million views in just a few days' time and helping Latham gain over 40,000 new followers. Meanwhile, the neighborly dispute escalated. Durham's husband, William Timmy Sr., and the couple's 2 sons got involved, but Latham showed no signs of backing down as he continued to ridicule the family on social media. In one video, he accused Durham's son of aggressively confronting him, mockingly stating that Karen's son had tried pulling him out of his car. Of course, the allegations went both ways. About a month after the initial confrontation between Latham and Tiffany Durham, the Durhams accused Latham of trying to run one of their sons off the road. The family called the police, and Tiffany told responding officers that Latham gave her a black eye, which the young man denied. No arrests were made and law enforcement left the scene. The feud reached a tragic tipping point later that day when the Durhams confronted Latham at his house. Latham answered the door armed with a stun gun and a knife, while his wife, Sarahi, recorded the encounter. A loud fight broke out, prompting several neighbors to dial 911. The incident ended with Latham fatally stabbing Timmy Sr. In a panicked 911 call, Latham said he'd just been assaulted. He admitted to the stabbing, later telling detectives that he felt he was the victim of a mob attack, despite the Durhams being unarmed. Latham was charged with manslaughter. To prevent him from continuing to broadcast the situation on TikTok and to the media, the judge overseeing the case imposed a gag order banning him from commenting on the case. Throughout his trial, Latham maintained that he acted in self-defense. The jury agreed, and he was acquitted of the whole charge. While Latham managed to avoid the worst possible outcome, which would have included prison time and a damaging criminal record, he still had to cope with the fallout of going public with his dispute and the massive amount of media attention the case attracted. He also has to live with knowing he killed someone, which is a painful reality for most people to come to grips with, even in cases that are deemed justified. 12. Ashley Guillard. With every headline-making crime comes a slew of people who think they have it solved before all the facts are even available. The quadruple murder of 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho in late 2022 was no exception. Zana Knodel, her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, and Knodel's roommates Madison Mogan and Kaylee Goncalves were viciously stabbed to death during the early morning hours of November 13th as they slept in their beds at the off-campus house they all shared. As weeks went by without any arrests, members of the public tried to get to the bottom of the case. And while many people came up with perfectly logical theories, others completely missed the mark. Included among the armchair detectives who mistakenly thought they were one step ahead of law enforcement was a TikToker and self-proclaimed psychic named Ashley Guillard, who posts videos under the username Ashley Solves Mysteries. The tarot card reader from Texas pinned the murders on Rebecca Schofield, an associate professor and chair of the University of Idaho's history department. According to Guillard, Schofield had a romantic connection with Casey Goncalves and ordered the murders in a bizarre revenge scheme. While many of the details of the investigation are being kept under wraps, there's not even been a hint of authorities suspecting Schofield in the case, let alone the TikToker's theory being based on tangible evidence or sound logic. Guillard doesn't know Schofield personally, and her reasoning behind why she thinks the professor is the killer is shaky at best, but she was confident enough in her opinion to share it with the world. And it backfired when she was slapped with a defamation lawsuit. Schofield, who was ruled out as a suspect early on in the investigation, accused Guillard of spreading harmful and false statements about her alleged connection to the murders. In the lawsuit, she said that she'd never even met the victims. She claimed that Guillard's accusations had caused her to suffer significant emotional damage and fear for her life, as well as the safety of her loved ones. The professor requested an unspecified amount of damages, including compensation for the security system she'd installed at her home, as well as a reimbursement for court costs. News of the court case broke just days before authorities arrested former criminology PhD student Brian Koberger as the prime suspect in the case. The court granted Schofield's motion for a default judgment in her favor in early 2023, after Guillard failed to formally respond to the lawsuit. Guillard has since countersued, accusing Schofield of ruining her reputation and claiming that she made the statements against Schofield out of a well-intentioned concern for public safety. 11. Matthew Price. Thanks to social media, more everyday people are becoming celebrities than ever before, and they're doing it largely through their own talent and ingenuity. A 27-year-old magician and comedian from Los Angeles named Matthew Price was among the countless individuals who tried to take advantage of what seemed like a more level playing field in the widespread pursuit for fame. Price left Fort Myers, Florida for LA in 2016, hoping to make it big with his gift for entertaining and making people laugh. To supplement his live work, he began to promote himself on TikTok, and it certainly helped to get him noticed. The ambitious jokester gained a following of more than 145,000 fans through his videos, which came in especially handy when the COVID-19 pandemic put an indefinite end to live performances. It's hard to make it in the cutthroat and competitive world of showbiz, especially while working to keep up with LA's infamously high cost of living. At one point, Price's mum, Danuta Ritchie, encouraged him to take a break and return to Florida. Ritchie later told the Fort Myers-based news press that her son had no such plans, and that he made it clear that he would stop at nothing to achieve the fame and fortune he'd dreamed of since childhood. He had no way of knowing that just days before Thanksgiving in 2021, someone would rob and kill him in the street during a routine snack run to a convenience store near his apartment. Surveillance footage captured the moment Price Carl laughed after being shot in the leg. He was rushed to a nearby hospital where doctors tried to save his life, but he bled to death from his injuries. There was a festival going on nearby, and the area where Price was killed is reportedly known as gang territory. But he wasn't known to be involved in any gangs, and his only offense that night was to innocently walk to a store for a bite to eat. Sadly, the killer remains at large. The Los Angeles Police Department is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the suspect, who investigators believe lives in the area where the crime occurred. 10. Anthony Barajas. Hailing from the greater Los Angeles area, TikTok star Anthony Barajas accumulated a following of nearly 1 million fans with his lip-sync videos, humorous skits, and thoughts about relationships and heartache. The social media community was shocked when the 19-year-old and his friend, 18-year-old Riley Goodrich, were ruthlessly gunned down at a movie theater one evening in July of 2021. In what can only be described as a real-life horror scene, the pair was shot execution style while watching the horror film The Forever Purge at a theater in Corona in Riverside County. An employee found Goodrich and Barajas in their seats after the movie. Goodrich was pronounced dead at the scene, and Barajas died in a hospital several days later. Authorities quickly zeroed in on a 20-year-old man named Joseph Jimenez as their prime suspect, but they were hard-pressed to identify a motive. According to investigators, Jimenez and the victims didn't know each other. Detectives eventually concluded that Barajas' social media fame most likely didn't play a role in the shooting. Despite the lack of a clear reason for the double murder, they had enough evidence to arrest Jimenez, so they booked him into custody on 2 counts of first-degree murder and various other charges. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Details of the shooting have slowly come to light throughout the suspect's court proceedings. During a preliminary hearing in 2022, several friends of Jimenez who were at the theater on the night of the murders testified that he was acting strangely. A witness named Julian Velasquez told the court that Jimenez was staring blankly and muttering to himself after their group arrived at the theater, and that his behavior became even more bizarre throughout the film. Velasquez described how Jimenez was allegedly glaring at his friends like he wanted to punch them in the face and for no apparent reason. During the movie, Jimenez reportedly left and returned with a backpack. Fearing he had a gun, another friend named Ramon Fellis took the backpack away. Fellis took the stand during the hearing and said that he wouldn't have returned the bag to Jimenez, and he would have alerted authorities if he had any idea that the defendant was seriously planning to shoot anyone. At some point before the show ended, Fellis and Velasquez became so disturbed by their friend's behavior that they snuck out of the theater, leaving him behind. They later saw Jimenez run out of the theater and speed off in his car. The court case and investigation are ongoing. 9. Sanya Khan. One of TikTok's biggest selling points is its abundance of raw, first-hand stories from people who find the strength to share their most painful and personal experiences with the world. One such individual was Sanya Khan, a first-generation American who was born in 1993 to parents who came to the United States from Pakistan. In 2021, she married her boyfriend of 5 years, Raheel Ahmad. The couple moved from Sanya's hometown of Chattanooga, Tennessee to Chicago, where she worked as a photographer. What was supposed to be the beginning of a long life together quickly turned into turmoil. After the wedding, Ahmad allegedly began displaying major signs of mental instability. Sanya remained quiet about the couple's worsening problems as she tried to make her troubled marriage work. Her close friend, Brianna Williams, later told the BBC that some of Sanya's friends encouraged her to leave Ahmed, while others urged her to try making the marriage work. She filed for divorce 6 months after her wedding in December 2021, following a particularly scary incident that caused her to seriously fear for her safety. It was a tough decision for Sanya, who was raised in a conservative culture that deeply frowns upon divorce. Knowing that other women from her background likely experienced similar feelings of failure, shame, and isolation, she bravely shared her story on TikTok. Sanya quickly amassed tens of thousands of followers as she discussed the reasons why she left her marriage, including her husband's abusive behavior and his alleged refusal to get mental help. She described feeling like Ahmed's problems became hers and hers alone to deal with, while grappling with the worrisome prospect of leaving him and being subjected to the stigma that divorced women in her culture often face. After filing for divorce, Sanya changed her logs and got a restraining order against Ahmed. Meanwhile, she continued telling her story, often venting about how she felt like a black sheep of her community. In one post, she said that some relatives told her that she let the devil win by ending her marriage. They allegedly made other cruel statements, including allegations that Sanya dressed like a prostitute, and they made it clear they wanted her to stay away from her hometown after she separated from her husband. On the afternoon of July 18, 2022, 7 months after Sanya filed for divorce, Ahmed's family reported him missing from the Atlanta area, where he'd moved during the separation. At the request of authorities in Georgia, Chicago police conducted a welfare check at Sanya's residence, where they found the young woman and her estranged husband dead from gunshot wounds. Ahmed had gained access to the building by setting up an appointment to tour apartments with a realtor. He'd previously been banned from the building, but security didn't check his ID that day. After viewing a few units, he told the realtor that he was going to meet up with some friends who lived in the building, and they went their separate ways. Sanya's death sparked larger ongoing discussions about the topic of divorce and the relationship between its taboo nature and the potentially life-endangering gender violence in the South Asian community. Her family declined to comment on her death, and leftover money from a crowdfunding campaign for funeral expenses was returned to donors after plans to donate it to anti-domestic violence organizations were met with conflict. 8. Rory Teasley. As a born entertainer, 28-year-old Rory Teasley was loved among his more than 200,000 TikTok followers for his easygoing, naturally likable personality and jovial sense of humor. In early 2022, the Michigan-based content creator posted a light-hearted video about getting older. Just days later, in a cruel twist of irony, he was fatally assaulted at his home in Pontiac. Police responded to the scene after receiving a 911 call from Teasley's boyfriend of 10 years, Jovo Watkins, who told the dispatcher that the couple had gotten into an altercation. Watkins reportedly told officers that Teasley was sleeping on the living room sofa, only for them to quickly discover that he was unresponsive and not breathing. It was unfortunately too late to save his life. According to an arrest report, Teasley and Watkins got into an argument while playing the video game Overwatch. The disagreement became physical, and Watkins choked Teasley to death. In a statement, Sheriff Michael Bouchard expressed his dismay at what he described as a nationwide trend of people resorting to violence over trivial and insignificant disagreements, which in Teasley and Watkins' cases claimed the life of one man and ruined the life of another. Watkins was charged with second-degree murder and held without bond while the case played out in court. He pleaded no contest to the charge in early 2023, right before he was scheduled to go to trial. Under Michigan law, a no-contest plea is not an admission of guilt, but it's treated like one when it comes to imposing a criminal sentence. A second-degree murder conviction can carry a term of up to life in prison, but can also come with a shorter term and the possibility of parole. According to jail records, Watkins is currently being held in Oakland County lockup, where he appears to be awaiting sentencing. 7. Ali Abulabana. From the outside looking in, Ali Nasser Abulabana and his wife Anna were living the American dream. Based on the image they put out to the world, they were a young, successful couple and doting parents to their young child, living happily together in a San Diego luxury high-rise. The pair were both very active on social media and could each be considered an influencer in their own right, but Ali was especially popular for his comedy skits, which earned him a TikTok following of over 1 million fans. He and Anna often feature one another in their videos, further bolstering their image of a picture-perfect, drama-free marriage and family life. But things were far less peachy behind closed doors. Friends of the couple would later say that Ali's fame became a bone of contention in the relationship, with Anna often suspecting him of cheating and growing increasingly jealous of the attention her husband received from female fans. Tensions between the pair soon gave way to physical violence, resulting in 9 police responses to their 35th floor condo over a 3-month period in 2021. After the string of domestic incidents, Ali moved out at Anna's request and checked into a hotel. Anna reportedly planned to ask for a restraining order against Ali and file for divorce, but she never got the opportunity to follow through with her intentions. Just 3 days after leaving the home, Ali allegedly returned, trashed the place, installed a listening device on his daughter's tablet, and left again. Just hours later, someone entered the condo and shot Anna in the head at point-blank range before firing multiple bullets into her friend, Rayburn Cadernas Barron. According to law enforcement, Ali confessed to killing the victims in a conversation with his mother. He was also reportedly seen leaving the condo on surveillance footage right around the time of the murders. Just hours after the deadly shooting, Ali was booked into jail on 2 counts of first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty and is being held without bail while awaiting trial, which was scheduled for May 2023 but appears to be delayed. In a bizarre jailhouse interview with Fox 5 shortly after the double murder, Ali said he heard Barron's voice while listening in on the bug he installed. In his words, he freaked out and rushed over to the condo, praying desperately that he wouldn't find Anna hooking up with another man. Prosecutors believed that Barron and Anna were just friends, but that Barron's mere presence in the home was enough to tip Ali over the edge into a murderous rage. Of course, regardless of the nature of the victim's relationship, killing is never the answer. The outcome of the case remains to be seen. 6. Matima Miller. Better known by his TikTok names Swavy and Babyface S, 19-year-old Matima Miller was a talented dancer with nearly 3 million followers. But he never got to see how far his talent would take him because he was shot dead in broad daylight outside his home in Wilmington, Delaware one morning in July of 2021. His mother witnessed his excruciating final moments. Just 2 days after the murder, as law enforcement worked to identify a suspect, controversial talk show host Wendy Williams announced Swavy's death during the Hot Topics segment of her talk show. She peppered the news with an array of bizarre and arguably insensitive comments that left viewers both shocked and appalled. When the teen's picture appeared on the screen, Williams said, "I have no idea who this person is, neither does one person in the building." She then described Swavy as a TikTok star with more followers than her. An equally tone-deaf producer chimed in about how Williams is more popular than Swavy on Instagram. The strange commentary went on for over a minute before Williams finally mentioned who Swavy was and that he'd been murdered. To add to an already cringe-worthy display, she seemed confused about the details and repeatedly asked the producer to confirm that Swavy was the victim. Outraged viewers accused Williams of being classless, demeaning, and disrespectful to the deceased young star. Swavy's mother was also deeply offended. In an interview with CBS 3, she summed her thoughts up into a simple but poignant statement, wondering out loud, "As a mother, Wendy Williams, how dare you?" Swavy's killer remained at large for 5 months before authorities finally announced the arrest of 18-year-old Israel Lecomte, who was accused of killing both Swavy and another victim named Quinton Dorsey. In early 2022, Lecomte was indicted on 12 federal charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder and 4 felony gun counts. The case appears to be ongoing. 5. Carla Bondini. In a chilling scenario that sounds like it came straight out of a Scream movie, a popular 21-year-old TikToker named Carla Bondini received a mysterious call around 10:30 p.m. one night in September 2022. She followed the caller's instructions to step outside her house in Mexico's Sinaloa state and never returned home. Authorities found the young woman's lifeless, bullet-riddled body at a nearby intersection the next day. Based on the evidence, it was clear that Bondini was lured outside and ambushed. Several witnesses reported seeing armed individuals lurking in the area prior to the attack, but nobody was able to identify the suspects. Shortly after the murder, authorities said that they were treating the case as a femicide, which is defined as the intentional killing of women or girls because they are female. In a statement, police told the public that they were carrying out the investigation in utmost secrecy to prevent any possible suspects from being alerted ahead of an arrest. The person or people responsible for the gender-motivated hate crime remain at large. In keeping with their vow to investigate in secrecy, authorities have released few details about their progress towards solving the case, leaving it unclear whether they're close to making any arrests. Bondini had a 90,000-strong TikTok following before her death, and her fanbase only grew in the days and weeks following her murder. In her last 3 videos, she posted captions in Spanish that translate to, "When they tell I can't stand you," and, in short, "I hope you don't like me." Some people have raised the possibility that the cryptic messages were directed at someone who was bothering Bondini, but investigators didn't say whether they thought there was a connection between the videos and the social media star's death. 4. Travis Honcho Taylor. Also known as Taco and Honcho da Boss, 39-year-old Travis Honcho Taylor was an up-and-coming TikTok star from Columbia, South Carolina. In addition to the more than 280,000 followers he attracted through his online persona, he was well liked in his community for his good-natured personality and unique sense of humor. In other words, to those who knew and followed him, he was an all-around good guy. Sadly, tragedy struck during the early morning hours of April 8, 2023. While responding to a report of shots fired, Richland County Sheriff's deputies found Honcho face down and unresponsive in the hallway of an apartment building with multiple gunshot wounds to his upper torso. He was pronounced dead at a local hospital. Friends, family, and fans were devastated by Honcho's sudden death at the hands of what appeared to be a senseless act of violence. 9 days later, authorities announced the arrest of suspects Daniel Goodwin Jr. and Andre Daniels, who were each charged with 1 count of murder. Investigators have released few details about the circumstances leading up to the shooting, beyond revealing that the suspects and the victim were all at the same nightclub before the murder took place. At the time of the killing, Daniel Goodwin was out on bond for his alleged role in a murder that occurred in 2019 in nearby Orangeburg County. In a statement, Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott described Goodwin's alleged participation in yet another murder as a worst-case scenario of the catch-and-release strategy of granting freedom to suspects of violent crimes. 3. Eric Dodds and Jonte Collier. 29-year-old Dakota Branshaw's future was cut short by a fatal gunshot on August 1, 2022. Walker County Sheriff's deputies found him clinging to life inside his Rossville, Georgia home while responding to a call about shots fired. Branshaw was rushed to the hospital, where he died from his injuries. Witnesses told law enforcement that they saw a red truck and a blue Dodge Challenger speeding away from the scene, but authorities initially had little else to go on in the way of identifying the suspects. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation joined the case and soon narrowed in on 23-year-olds Eric Dodds and Jonte Collier, who were well known on TikTok and OnlyFans for their LGBTQ+ friendly content. Collier was the first suspect to be publicly named. In response to the announcement, Dodds made a TikTok video claiming his partner was innocent. He even created a GoFundMe crowdfunding campaign to raise money for Collier's legal defense. Both men were arrested in Huntsville, Alabama, a few weeks after Branshaw's murder. Authorities released limited details about the case until nearly 3 months later, when the suspects were formally indicted on murder charges. During the indictment hearing, GBI agent Daniel Nicholson testified that he had received information from a third person who was allegedly involved in the shooting named Daja Collins. According to Miss Collins's version of events, the murder was motivated by a plot to retrieve the blue Dodge Challenger, which was registered in Collier's name, from Bradshaw's property where it was parked. Nicholson said that Collins told him she was tasked with driving the Challenger away from the scene. She allegedly rode to Bradshaw's home with Dodds, Collier and others in the red truck the witnesses spotted at the scene, and she claimed that everyone was armed. During her interview with Agent Nicholson, the young woman reportedly described Dodds as being in a highly emotional state and crying with rage during the drive to Bradshaw's property. She reported hearing 4 or 5 gunshots as she rushed from the trunk to the Challenger and sped away. A fourth suspect, Darius Woods, was captured in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a few days after the indictment hearing after being on the run for more than 2 months. In a statement, GBI Special Agent Joe Montgomery described the investigation as labor and paper intensive, with more than 50 search warrants being carried out on social media, cell phones, homes, and people. According to the most recent news updates, all 4 suspects remain in custody while awaiting the next steps in their case. 2. Hardis Najafi. In September 2022, a 22-year-old Iranian woman named Mahsa Amini died under suspicious circumstances after being arrested by the country's morality police, leading to a widespread speculation that she was beaten to death by law enforcement for not wearing her hijab. The disturbing tragedy sparked Iran's biggest women's rights protest since at least 2009, if not earlier. Just 5 days after Amini's death, a 22-year-old Iranian TikToker named Hardis Najafi was killed in an onslaught of bullets while participating in a protest in the city of Karaj. According to reports, she was shot at least 6 times in the face, hand, neck, heart, and torso. Her family said that she was struck by more than 20 bullets. Iranian authorities blamed the murder on protesters, claiming that Najafi was shot with weapons that are not used by police. But other activists, as well as Najafi's family, strongly refuted this claim, arguing that the young woman was murdered by the country's security forces. To add to the suspicion, Najafi's loved ones said that they were not allowed to see her in the hospital, and that police officers physically barred them from going near her. Shortly after Najafi's death, a video circulated online of a young woman tying her hair into a ponytail before joining a protest. Social media rumors falsely claim that the woman in the video was Najafi, when it actually featured another brave young activist. But Najafi was also an avid social media user who had a solid TikTok following, and both women protested for a shared vision of a peaceful country where women have basic rights. Najafi's death only further fueled the demonstrations against the government, which are ongoing. Sadly, more protesters have died under suspicious circumstances, and their funerals have become ridden with violence at state hands. In at least 3 cases analyzed by The Washington Post, footage, photos, and eyewitness accounts have produced clear evidence of Iranian security forces using lethal force against funeral attendees. As the death count continues to accumulate, the masses continue to bravely defy the authorities, including by using TikTok and other social media to raise awareness and gain support in their fight against state-sponsored repression. 1. Sonali Fogat. As a career actress and politician from India's Haryana state, Sonali Fogat was used to talking in front of an audience before she became a TikToker, so it was only natural that she extended her influence to social media. When the 42-year-old died after being found unresponsive in her hotel room during a trip to Goa in August of 2022, it initially appeared to be the result of cardiac arrest. But an autopsy report found multiple blunt force injuries on her body, and her death was ruled a suspected homicide. As a fearlessly opinionated and outspoken woman with a successful high-paying career, it was certainly possible from multiple angles that someone wanted Fogat dead. Authorities were now tasked with figuring out whether the motive had any connection to her leadership roles in 2 of India's political parties, if perhaps a disgruntled social media follower had targeted her, or if the crime was rooted closer to home. The investigation yielded surveillance footage of Fogat in the company of her personal assistant, Sudhir Sangwan, at a local beach bar the night before her death. In the video, Sangwan could be seen pouring a drink down Fogat's throat. Shortly thereafter, she appeared unsteady on her feet and was visibly struggling to walk on her own. Further evidence suggested that Sangwan drugged his boss with a heavy dose of MDMA, which caused her to spend 2 hours throwing up in the bathroom of a nightclub after leaving the beach bar. After the club closed at around 4:30 in the morning, witnesses reportedly observed Fogat being carried by Sangwan and an alleged accomplice, who was later identified as Sukhwinder Vasi. The men were seen taking Fogat to the resort where she was staying, just a few hours before she was taken to the hospital and declared dead on arrival. According to investigators from India's Central Bureau of Investigation, who took over the case at the request of Fogat's family after local authorities failed to produce answers regarding her death, the suspects allegedly overdosed Fogat as part of a sinister plot to get their hands on her money and property. Sangwan and Wasi face murder charges, and 3 other suspects have been charged in connection with Fogat's death, including the owner of the beach bar she was seen at with Sangwan and the caretaker at the resort where she was staying. The wheels of justice turn notoriously slowly in India, which is infamous for having one of the world's most snail-paced legal systems. It'll give the suspects a lot of time to think about their alleged crimes as they languish with an uncertain future and the very real possibility of a prison sentence looming over their heads. Thanks for watching. As you already know, fame often comes with money, not to mention admiration, but sometimes it attracts the wrong kind of attention. Would you rather be famous and wealthy, even if it meant having to deal with crazy people and being extra vigilant about your safety? Or would you prefer a modest but drama-free existence, where people you don't want to interact with generally leave you alone? Why would one be better than the other? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.